Alright, for this one, I'm in the F-18 Hornet. I'm
No, that's
on
a
the
stinger.
DDCS server. Up in front of me is
The
a
Reaper's going
enemy
south. Reaper's
contact.
going south.
I'm at 37,000 feet. He's at
Oh.
24,000 feet. He's hot to
Oh yeah, look
me, and
at
he's
that.
about 30 miles
He's
away.
firing them in pairs. They bombed right next to that. How the...
The Rapier's pretty resilient.
They must have bombed a launch site, not a...
At this point, I'm trying to pick him up. He's within the scan pattern, but for some reason, he can't come up, and then all of a sudden the data link rips 180 degrees in the other direction, and he's at 7,000 feet. This is pretty normal when you're in a real life situation, and then all of a sudden he's off the screen. So what I'm doing is I switched to interleave PRF, and I'm just kind of looking around. So I'm looking behind, see if I'm in the cons, and I'm climbing to ensure that this guy can't see me, because I know these guys like to just sit on the deck and look up for conning contacts. When you're doing this, you got to keep an eye on your speed, because especially in the Hornet, once you get up into the 40,000 block, there's not a whole lot of air to grab onto up here, so it does get really hard to maintain this altitude. Alright, so he's popped up back on data link. He's at 10,000 feet. Same situation, I'm trying to pick him up. He's inside the scan block, but there's just nothing there. So this is just a really good indication that that's just an old data link contact. He's not actually there. Alright, so I do a scan on that brick, but it's just not enough. I pick him up in TWS. He's low. You can see that the caret indicating the elevation of the radar is all the way at the bottom, so he's so close to me and so under the nose that the radar can't see him any longer. So I go into a dive. You can see I've got my SA page on my left display, and I'm rolling through my ACM modes until I get to vertical scan, and I go into a dive. I notice that he's behind me, so I roll over. I crank the nose back, hoping that he's still behind me. Basically just steering the aircraft so that that vertical scan pattern is about where I think that aircraft is. Now I'm in wide acquisition mode. This is a horizon stabilized scan pattern, which you can see by the box at the bottom right corner of the HUD. Not really sure why I'm turning right here. I must not have been looking at my SA page. Something tells me if I would have turned left there, I would have picked him up on wide acquisition mode. So I'm turning all the way around, turning all the way around. I'm really not seeing anything until I look up right there. Fortunately, I have a data link contact on him, so he shows up in the HMD. Right before he rolled into the HUD, he was at about 11 miles, so that's outside of all of the ACM modes, including long-range helmet acquisition. So I've got to close the distance. You can see I switched to long-range helmet acquisition mode and picked him up right there. And I was able to get a lock for a second, but then it falls off. So you could see him divert there. I think he knows I'm looking at him. And basically what I'm doing is I'm following to try to close the distance. You can see by his contrails what he's doing here, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is those contrails are a huge indication of what you're doing. I start getting bleed through from a Patriot here. I don't think he's concerned about me at all. I think he's concerned about what that Patriot's doing to him. And I punch off a 120 here. I was sure
What
that this
the
120
hell
was
is
going to
he
get him. I have
doing?
no idea what happens to it.
B.
What
He
is
says. He
Like,
says.
I really
"Watch
just
that
lost him in the
wall,"
dive.
And then I don't know.
And that 120 just really had no idea where he went. He must have lost him somehow.
with a ammo truck and knocked it over and it exploded.
That's pretty funny.
So now we're back into this game where we're trying to find each other. I don't know if he really even knows that I'm there. This guy kind of doesn't really seem very aware. So now I'm doing the same thing. I'm scanning.
Okay, why
I'm
is
back
the
into
Patriot
wide
still
acquisition
blocking
mode.
me? Or is that just bleed through of it locking something else out there?
So at this point, I'm under the impression that data link is gone, so I am only using the systems in my aircraft to find this guy.
All these signs are
Glancing at my
coming
map,
up.
making sure that there isn't anybody in the local area. That's something that is actually available on this server. Other aircraft on the map.
Altitude. Altitude.
So right here, I'm painting the horizon with the vertical scan for a second, seeing if I can pick him up. I'm under the impression that this guy's like right on top of me. But I open up the SA page, come to find out that we do have situational awareness. AWACS was not shot down. So I open up my range, and lo and behold, he's actually completely in another direction. I've been flying around, and this guy is 35 miles away again.
Are either of you, or both of you, just want to cap?
I'm not completely convinced that this is the same target. Kinda.
Yeah.
But
Not really.
for story's
Just
sake, we'll
change
say
out
that it
for a
is.
moment.
So I'm climbing through Mach 1, through what looks like 25,000
My
feet,
rapier has one launch
and
site.
I'm basically just doing
remaining.
this to give my missile its best chance, and I'm chasing the steer dot at this point just to give my missile a chance.
What?
And I make a pretty rookie mistake here when I launch. Right now I'm in high PRF. I launch, everything looks good. Launch right here.
Our AWACS spawned up and immediately died.
Just as a safety precaution, I really don't think he's launched on me, but I crank away, and then when I do that, he goes from a slightly nose-on aspect to a slightly nose-off aspect, and because I'm on high PRF, the radar can no longer pick him up, and I lose that lock, so that missile really has no chance of getting out there and getting him. So I've got him locked up again in
One, they have to
medium,
be
and I'm just
within
trying
a
to
range,
close
a certain range. You
again.
don't have ranging on it, so you just have to
Kinda
hold
hate
it over
myself
them
right
until
now.
you start hearing the growl. and once you hear the growl, it takes a moment for it to get an actual lock, and then you hit the fire button.
So I pull this genius move right here.
So you just kind of have to
The
stare at 'em and
M120
wait.
has a couple second delay between when you pull the trigger and when it comes off the rails, and I had lost the lock in that time frame, so that missile basically just goes into the woods. So at this point, the AWACS is gone. These guys have basically just been driving over into what would be considered quote-unquote friendly
What is
territory
that
for us,
JA on my
and
SA page or on my radar page?
killing our AWACS. So the
Hey, Steve?
2 F-18s on the
JA
bottom
on
left
the SA?
corner of the SA
Sorry.
page are actually locking this guy, so I can still utilize them as donor aircraft. That's why you have an upside down bracket. They're too far away to use the Nectar system to verify whether or not that's a enemy
It's a
aircraft.
jamming
I know
target.
it's an enemy aircraft
It's in the dugout.
because I had them locked during
Yeah.
data link. So I try to get him with the helmet acquisition mode. I have no idea why I'm not getting a lock here, but I'm noticing this guy's pretty close, so I switch over to an AIM-9. Start getting tone. Fire this one off with a medium signal, and then fire off another one just to be sure, but the
Eagle
first
with
one
a
already
fucking
hit.
AIM-9.
Flight control.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Flight control.
How'd you even find him?
very carefully.
Fuel low. Fuel low.
1,700 pounds of fuel to turn that in with. They're out here in, like, shithead zone, so I don't even know. Am I going to get points for that?
Yeah, you will.
And outside of the box?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You gotta. Yeah.
All told, that's really what it looks like when you're outside of a training environment and you gotta use the whole picture and everything available to you in the Hornet to splash an enemy target. So yeah, I hope you liked that. That was a lot of work to splash one guy, but yeah, that's sometimes how it goes.